Oh, yeah. Good job. You made it. You made it through the game. We got a lot of Stephanie White half-court action tonight. And, boy, it could be construed as a rough watch. A rough watch.
Not the critics. Not the people who said Caitlin Clark was shooting too much. Not the people who said Indiana could not win playing through her. And definitely not the people who spent weeks acting like the Fever's problems started with number 22. Because now Indiana is winning. Caitlin Clark is controlling games. Sophie Cunningham is catching fire. And the same league that looked comfortable watching the Fever struggle now has a very different problem on its hands.
Caitlin Clark gonna have them haters out after this one. Did you like that? All of this, Caitlin Clark is unlikable. She's becoming unlikable. Did you like that? 14 assists. The girl was throwing dimes left and right like Magic Johnson. We got to get into this 21 point, 14 assists, double-double, and the blonde bomber Sophie Cunningham is still on fire from Connecticut.
The Fever are no longer just interesting. They are dangerous. And the scary part is Caitlin Clark did not even have to shoot the ball well for it to happen. That is what makes this game so important. Because if you only looked at the box score quickly, you might think this was just another solid Caitlin Clark night. 21 points, 14 assists, 5 rebounds, another double-double, another Fever win. But that does not tell the full story.
If you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping. All the Caitlin Clark haters is about to be out. Caitlin Clark, 14 assists, a season high. Can your best player go get you 21 and 14 in an off shooting night? Caitlin Clark was passing out assists like trick-or-treat candy. You get a treat. You get a treat. You get a treat. You get a treat. She's just giving out gifts and treats to everybody. Everybody gets treats. Everybody gets fed when Caitlin Clark has that basketball in her hand. The best player in the league, the best point guard in the league, hands down. It ain't close. It ain't nothing to talk about. Caitlin Clark with another double-double, 21 points, 14 assists, as she did her part to secure a victory for the Indiana Fever. She also contributed 5 rebounds.
Clark went 5 for 15 from the field. She struggled from 3. She missed shots that fans expect her to make. And somehow, she still controlled the entire game. That is the part the league should be worried about. Because when Caitlin Clark can have an average shooting night and still bend the game completely in Indiana's favor, that means the Fever are becoming more than just a one-player story. They are becoming a team.
But the shooting was awful. And I'm going to be real. Caitlin, mama, I need you to make shots. I need you to make shots. Caitlin Clark didn't hit her first 3 until late in the fourth quarter. She was 1 of 8 from 3, 5 of 15 from the floor. Okay, off shooting nights happen. She shot nearly 50% last week, nearly 40% from 3, while she became player of the week. But hey man, we got high expectations. I need Cece to make shots, but this was still a quality game. We're gonna get into the Clark Show highlights.
And that is exactly what the critics did not want to see. For months, the debate around Clark was always framed the same way. Is she doing too much? Is she forcing shots? Is Indiana better when she slows down? Is the offense too dependent on her? But this game showed the other side of the argument. When Clark has the ball, everyone becomes more dangerous. She was not just scoring. She was reading the floor. She was pulling defenders toward her. She was forcing rotations. She was finding cutters. She was hitting shooters. She was creating rhythm for everybody else.
It looks like, hey, we are 4-0. We're 4-0 playing Caitlin Clark style of offense. Stephanie White, you're done. Your offense is done. Forget about it. Let's take a look at the Clark Show.
Lexi Hall.
Caitlin Clark did her thing today, man. This girl was throwing dimes. She was throwing absolute dimes left and right. Look at that pass to Monique Billings. Easy score. The pick and roll with Caitlin Clark is unguardable. Behind the back and one. That's when the ref finally made a foul call. Finally. But, I mean, Caitlin Clark, even though she's not, and this is the beautiful thing about Caitlin Clark. You see the steal there. Pushing it up the floor. Okay, she's able to impact the game in ways where it's like, yeah, she's having a bad shooting night, but the girl's getting steals. The girl's getting 5-6 rebounds out of the point guard spot. She's getting 14 assists. Look at that behind the back pass. Good Lord, Caitlin Clark, you're putting on a show. You putting on a show.
And that is how a night where she could not shoot lights out still turned into one of the clearest examples of her impact. 14 assists is not an accident. It means the offense was moving through her hands. It means her teammates were getting better looks. It means the Fever were playing with pace, confidence, and trust. And once Sophie Cunningham got involved, the whole game changed. Sophie did not just give Indiana bench points. She gave them energy. She gave them attitude. She gave them that spark that turns a normal win into a statement.
Sophie Cunningham, guys, she was the light of our life tonight. She went absolutely berserk, particularly in the fourth quarter. I do want to bring this up. When Brittany Sykes got hurt, the Tempo were all in this game.
She came off the bench and lit the game up. 24 points, 6 threes. Big shot after big shot. Every time the crowd needed a reason to wake up, Sophie gave them one. And that is why fans started reacting so strongly, because this is what they have been waiting for. Not just Clark hitting deep threes, not just one superstar carrying everything, but a Fever team where Clark's passing unlocks everyone else. That is the version of Indiana that becomes a nightmare. Aaliyah Boston can dominate inside. Kelsey Mitchell can attack and score. Sophie Cunningham can punish defenses from the perimeter. And Clark can sit in the middle of all of it, controlling the tempo like a quarterback. That is when the Fever stop looking like a young team trying to survive. They start looking like a team nobody wants to play. And now the conversation around the league has to change. Because for a while, it was easy for people to blame Clark whenever Indiana struggled. If the Fever lost, people said she shot too much. If she passed, people said she was not aggressive enough. If she got frustrated, people said she needed to mature. If she stayed quiet, people said she lacked leadership. No matter what happened, the spotlight always found her. But now the Fever are winning, and the same spotlight is becoming uncomfortable for everyone else. Because if Clark is the reason the building is full, the reason the ratings are high, the reason every Fever game feels like an event, and now also the reason Indiana's offense is exploding, then the league has a much bigger question to answer. Why did so many people spend so much time acting like she was the problem? That is why this moment feels different. This was not just a win. This was a correction. A correction to the idea that Clark's style cannot work in the WNBA. A correction to the idea that Indiana needed to take the ball out of her hands. A correction to the idea that her game was just logo threes and hype. Because this version of Clark was not just a shooter, she was a floor general. And when the defense sent pressure, she made the right pass. When teammates ran the floor, she rewarded them. When Indiana needed control, she slowed the game down. When Indiana needed pace, she pushed it. That is leadership. And the Fever looked different because of it. The spacing looked better, the ball movement looked sharper, the confidence looked real, and most importantly, the players around Clark looked like they believed every possession could turn into something. That is why Sophie Cunningham matters so much in this story. Her performance was not separate from Clark's, it was connected to it. Because when a player like Sophie starts hitting shots, defenses can no longer load up the same way. They cannot just chase Clark. They cannot just collapse on Boston. They cannot just crowd the paint. They have to respect everybody. And once that happens, Clark gets even more dangerous. That is the chain reaction. Clark creates the advantage. Her teammates punish the defense. The defense adjusts. Then Clark gets more space. That is how good offenses grow. And that is why Fever fans are suddenly looking at this team differently. A few weeks ago, people were asking if Indiana had lost its identity. Now they are asking how high the ceiling really is. Because this team has not peaked yet. Clark can shoot better. Boston can get even cleaner looks. Mitchell can keep attacking. Sophie can become the bench weapon Indiana desperately needs. And the chemistry can keep improving. That is the part that should worry everybody else. This was not a perfect Caitlin Clark game, and Indiana still looked explosive. So what happens when she does start shooting well again? What happens when the threes fall early? What happens when the assists stay high? What happens when the bench keeps producing? What happens when Indiana starts believing this is who they are? That is the problem the league is facing now. Not just Caitlin Clark as a scorer. Caitlin Clark as the engine of a team that is finally starting to understand how dangerous it can be. And that is why this game went viral, because people did not just watch Indiana win, they watched the story change in real time. The critics got quieter, the fans got louder, the fever got better. And Caitlin Clark reminded everyone that even when her shot is not falling, she can still take over a basketball game. That is what nobody expected. And that is what the rest of the WNBA has to deal with now.